Welcome to the Susan Brender Show. It's all about you, featuring shows on health and wellness, the performing arts, politics, and people who inspire you to be your very best. And now, here's Susan Brender.
I'm Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. Today I'm interviewing a very inspiring young man. His name is Keith Andrew. Now, Keith Andrew has been labeled as a disabled person. Now, you know, this is a very interesting thing for me because I've spoken to Keith before, and I don't see anything that would relate him to disabled, but schools did that to him, and other people did that to him. That's why I wanted to interview him today, because I want the audience to understand that we have a young man who is absolutely articulate, he's smart, he starts podcasts, he really does blogs, he knows so much about this technology. So I want to welcome to my show, Keith Andrew.
No, it's a real honor and privilege to be on your talk show. Thank you very much.
You know, Keith, let's start from the beginning. Now, when you went to school, what happened?
Alright, so pretty much when I went to school, I took those special ed classes, and I was labeled as, they would say, labeled as mentally disturbed, mentally disconnected, retarded, just basically I was going to amount to pretty much nothing, and I was going to work in retail for the rest of my life.
That's absolutely ridiculous. What made them say that you were disabled? Did you have some sort of problem? What went on during that moment?
Pretty much when I was about 3-4 years old, I took a lot of tests, and basically I learned a slower pace. So basically, like you know, you're rich and famous, and you went to college, you know how to drive. For me, I was a scale back. So you're 10, I would be a 5. And so instead of saying, okay, we're gonna, instead of reading this book today, you say, okay, I can read the book. But for me, it's going to be like, okay, we're going to read one page, and after we read one page, we're going to do the other, then go back, read it again, make sure it sinks in, because I learn at a slower pace. And people say that you know, I learn slow, but I'm labeled as retarded. You know, it's just, I don't process things faster than everyone else. Some people say I have poor social skills. Sometimes I'm right, because I suffer from depression, and it takes me a hard time to interact. But I'm a good person. I do the right thing.
We know that. That's not something you have to tell me. I mean, honestly, you are more than a good person. You're an inspirational person. Now, how did your parents deal with that situation when you were given kind of an idea that something's wrong with you? I mean, what did your parents do?
They basically went with it.
They what?
They just went along with it.
Why do you think that they did that?
You know, it's my dad's a former assistant principal, and he deals with kids all the time. And my mom just didn't know what to do, so they just basically said, you know, just go through the school system, and afterwards we deal with it afterwards.
Now, he's a principal of a school, right? So
Former.
He must, a lot of people, a vice principal?
No, former vice principal.
Former vice principal of a school. So he must see a lot of people who need to be in these classes that help them when they are diagnosed or labeled, which is what I don't like, labeled, you know, retarded. I mean, nobody uses that anymore. They use mentally disabled. What did he think about you?
Honestly, we didn't really talk much about it. He just basically told me, just do what I'm supposed to be doing and just get through it.
So, okay, so let's go to the next step. So here you are in these classes with a lot of people who really have issues. Now, you knew that at some time you really didn't know that you needed to be in that class. So did you ever approach, and I'm curious about this because even when you were a young kid, did you ever approach anybody in the school and tell them, look, maybe I'm slower than some people, but I want to be mainstreamed? Did you ever say that?
Absolutely, and I was in mainstream for some classes. Let's see, what was it? Basic video production, I was mainstream. Health class, I was in mainstream. Team life skills, and I pretty much failed it. Because I had poor, I guess you would say I had poor people skills, and that played a factor in why I didn't do well in group activities. But they just basically said, just give it to them, see what happens, and it's like, well, you failed, now you know why you're taking old special ed classes.
So, okay, I want our audience to know a little bit about special ed. We hear that word all the time. Lots and lots of young people are in special ed. Define special ed classes to us.
It's supposed to be, helping people learn and exceed. But unfortunately for me, I used to skip they had a class called Skills. Occasionally I was on the computer doing times about the different clocks and times and money. And they said all special ed people are exempt from taking finals and final exams, whatever it's called, I think SATs and everything. And yeah, SATs, I was exempt from it, but I still had to study for it. Go figure. But the reason I would skip the class is most of the time they would say, "Oh, you here today? Here's a newspaper. Go sit in the back of the class. Don't bother me." So I was like, I'm not gonna sit here for 45 minutes, with my thumb up my butt. It just say, I'm not going to read the stupid newspaper. Or they would be so obsessed with drama, because all the kids I would talk to, I thought they were friends of mine at the time, I used to talk to them on instant messenger, and if I said something they didn't like, they would run to their parents or their teachers and say, keep picking on me. So instead of teaching me, they would be so focused on the drama that it's either you're dealing with, people's drama, or I'm reading a newspaper. So I said, screw it, I'm skipping the class and doing what I want, and so it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Keith, were you bullied at all? And tell our audience a little bit about what went on in the schools with regard to bullying, because that's a very popular subject. I tell you, when I read the newspapers, and also in my experience as a television producer, we had a lot to do when we talked about bullying, because it's a really horrendous thing.
Well, where should I start? From the students or the teachers?
Let's start with the students and go to the teachers, because I'm very interested in this subject.
All right. Sometimes I would bring things on myself, and I don't do it deliberately. I don't do okay, I'm gonna mess up today and let people feel bad for me. I don't do that. I do stupid things just because I have poor mannerisms, and I've been working hard to get over that. But I was bullied in middle school, and it was just a whole bunch of other things.
Now, tell us about the teachers. Did they bully the kids too?
Because my whole family went through the whole school district, every time there's this one gym teacher who's a real trip. He would constantly, make jokes about my family, about my brothers. every single day he would say, what are they doing? What are they doing this? And there was this other guy who made and helped me get into the audiovisual, but he was obsessed with talking about my brother. There's one teacher. Here's another thing. He was a special ed teacher. He basically had ADD. I didn't know what his problem was. But he used to run up and down the classroom. And so one day he made my hands shake, and I just said to him, "Can you please stop doing that? You're bothering me." So basically he came in the next day with a severe attitude. He used to pick on me. He found out, okay, school teachers are being jerks or whatever, okay, just whatever school. But this guy found out from another teacher I used to work over at North Face. So this guy came in one day and said, "Hey, I heard that you worked here. Okay, I'm going to put you to the test. Okay, can you help me find a jacket? You know what, better yet, I know you're inconfident. So let me help this girl next to me. Let me help this person next to you because I know she's more inconfident than you are." So I went into the back. It's a whole long story about that. But basically, the guy came to my store and harassed me, and he just didn't like me for some whatever reason.
From your perspective, I want to get I want to know what you would do if you had it all to change. What would you recommend today to the principals, to the teachers, to all of the people that were participating in the school? You've had a lot of experience now, and you should understand what it is that would make it better for people who are in the school today. What would you say?
I would say stop focusing on the drama. It does do your job and does work on educating the people.
So, if I get you right, you're also saying that the educational system was broken, and they didn't provide you with some of the needs that you had, and the same was for other people in your class. The system was broken?
I'll give you a perfect example, about two examples. I was basically pushed for the 4 years. First day we went into school. It's just one whole thing, and I'm sorry, I didn't know you want this long thing or you want snippets.
Do whatever you think is right. I want people to learn from you what you think can be done to make things better in our educational system.
I would say be more well considerate. When I first started in my freshman year, I walked in with my parents and they said, this is from the guidance counselor, "Oh, we know your son has a learning disability, but we promise you, after these 4 years, he will be a functional adult. He will go to college. He will get a GED. He can go and do all these amazing things. Nope, go read newspapers, sit in the back of your class, don't bother me." So I was basically pushed along. I was picked on by the teachers because they know my family. So every day they always had a comment or a joke to make. They always were obsessed with drama. And, I'll give you one story. When something happened in my sophomore year, and my mom had to come in for some reason, and she told the guidance counselor that Keith has been depressed because this is my mom talking now, because my father passed away, and we had to go to the funeral and everything. And the guidance counselor said, "Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you're still standing here?" And that's kind of like, that's one of the problems right there. You have inconsiderate people, teasing people that don't really give a damn. And that's why they're like, "Oh, well, we're going to push you along, we're going to push you, and don't bother us." Basically, make a long story short, my school was a rich, snobby country club. If you didn't know the person, if you didn't have money, if you weren't a in-person, they basically didn't cater to you. But if you were a dirtbag, douchebag, criminal, I know this one kid who destroyed a house. He's a real racist. This kid destroyed a house. But everyone catered to him. And he was special ed. And for me, they're like, oh, we know you. We know your family. And we want nothing to deal with you. We know the type of person you're going to be or the type of elements you attract. So we're just basically going to give you, the weather. And it's the weather or whatever labels you want to use.
Minimal. They spent minimal time with you because they thought you're not a problem. That kid's a problem, so they put you back on. You sort of fell through the cracks, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah. Well. Okay. So let's move on now. Let's go to some positive things about Keith. So tell our audience when you started after you finished school and you realized that you had to do something with your life. How did you choose to do a podcast?
I would say, I'm sorry, that's how I crank my neck.
That's all right.
This shirt's kind of tight. Well, during high school, I can tell you the whole thing. It's 2004, actually 2003. I had my brother's friends who didn't graduate or they were held back, keeping me company. And I met this guy. He was in charge of the audiovisual department, and I used to sit against the wall in the lunchroom because, like I said, I'm not the same person who I am now. Because I have poor people skills. He said to me, "Why don't you come to the audiovisual department and make something of yourself?" I didn't do it in my freshman year because I was failing everything left and right. So sophomore year I went, and this was about November, maybe December, and he said for some reason, well, let me see your grades. If you're passing, you're allowed to be here, because at that time people were cutting class, they were skipping class. So he said to me, I want to see your report card. And I was 60s in all of my classes. He said, you can't be here, you're not passing. And so it's all in my book that I'm writing. So I got hysterical, I started to cry. I know, like a big baby.
I cried to be a big baby because you grow up very fast. Continue your story, if you will.
So I got hysterical, I started to cry. It's like, I want to be here, I love AV, this is the only thing in school that makes me happy. I don't want it to be taken away. Well, you can't be here if you're failing your classes. So I sat in the hallway. This girl, Meg Quinn, came over to me and said, hey Keith, what's the matter? Why you cried? Can't talk. She went in and talked, and so why is Keith in the hallway crying? Oh, he's only faking. Well, he's been out there a pretty long time. I don't think he's faking. So I got pulled in. He said, I tell you what, and this guy made a perfect example out of my life, and for this, I will ever be thankful for him. Even though I did drive him crazy. That was my fault. He said, this is what we're going to do. You're going to come down. You're going to show me that you're actually give a damn about what you're doing. That this is not a front. That you're doing what you're supposed to do. And I will let you stay. But the first time I see you slack off or something happens, that's it. You're banned for the rest of the year. So I stayed. He taught me how to do the lights and sound for the shows and the coffee houses. He taught me how to do my talk show. He gave me props. He said it was broken headsets, but he used to give me stuff. He used to make me copies of videotapes. I missed the guy. He was really good. And I started my own talk show. To answer your question, make a long story short, it was the Keith Andrew Power Hour, the Keith and Tony Show, the Keith and Andrew Show, the Keith and Megan, the Keith and Safina Show, the Extreme Power Hour, and I wanted to have guests, and they had something called the Morning Show, and I take a lot of pride in this because I came up with it, because oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, continue your story.
They had TVs in the room at one time or another. And they had, I guess they had their own shows at one time. But they didn't have it anymore. And I said, why wouldn't it be great to have people come in and do a morning show? And it's like, okay, that's great. Go about it. Like I said, I'm not the same person who I once was. And they said to me, what would you say about doing a morning show? You have to talk to the assistant principal. You would have to talk to this person. And like I said, not the same person. I had poor people skills. I didn't know how to approach authority. Now I can't shut up. Now I like to question authority. Now, but back then I didn't know what to do.
So what you would say is that this idea of doing a podcast, of interviewing people, was really what got you out of that kind of slump, and,
Yes.
and really gave you an opportunity to show the real Keith. That's a very interesting thing. I want our audience to know more about that, because there are lots of people out there, as I mentioned before, lots of kids, lots of children in schools who have no confidence, they have no self-esteem, and look at you. You started from nowhere. You had sort of a bad situation going on. You were bullied. Many, many things were happening to you, and this was the beginning of the real Keith coming out.
No, absolutely. But unfortunately, I didn't know how to approach things, so I only did a radio show. I couldn't have guests. I could have students on, but I had poor people skills, and I suffered from depression and panic attacks. So I had like a friend help me time to time. But there was a group of people who liked the idea, and they created their own show, and they took the whole idea and said, oh, well, I came up with it. No, actually, I came up with it. You didn't come up with anything. It's like, okay, so I said, you know what, you want to start a rivalry? So we had the morning show versus the Keith Andrews show. So, but, I was done with high school, and I couldn't go to college because I have an IEP diploma. So basically, for people who want to know what an IEP is, it's an individual educational program. Basically, you took the classes you needed to graduate, but unless you're going to a 2-year school to learn on how you gotta work on cars, refrigerators, and air conditioners, you really can't do anything with it. So I couldn't go to college. I was working in a retail store, and I got sick out of it. Basically, summing up the whole story, is basically how we're talking now, and you're the manager. Someone would come up to this girl, so would say, oh, Keith, we're friends, you can tell me anything you want, blah, blah, blah. She would go in the back, and she'd say, oh, Keith is stalking me, Keith is doing this, Keith is doing that. You would yell at me and say, knock it off, blah, blah, blah. And as soon as I go on the sales floor, I can't snap my fingers. You would be right there saying, oh, we know you have a learning disability. We're just screwing with you. We're having fun with you. Don't take it so personally. And as soon as I would take a step, the back door would swing open. You would say, Keith, well, I just told you not to talk to her. I would point at the camera saying, she came to me. Well, we don't have audio. How do we know that you didn't call her over? So basically, I spent more time in the bathroom throwing up, having the panic attacks. Good news was I got paid out of it. But the bad news is this was really degrading my health. So it took me a whole year to recover, in 2008. And then I went to West Point. West Point had a custodial program for people. They work with occupations, and occupations host people with special needs. They had a custodial job, and to training after 6 weeks, you get a New York State certificate saying you can now work anywhere as a custodian. You've been certified by the state. They didn't get the contract, but there's a long story about that. Basically, I was choked.
Now, look, stop for a minute, Keith. All right, so you got this quote-unquote degree from West Point,
Yes.
custodial work. Don't you think that you're able to do so much more now?
Absolutely.
Now, did you ever think of becoming a veteran, of being in the military and getting an education there?
I am not qualified to be in the Army.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. Now let's talk about the beginning of podcasting. I want you to tell our young people who are listening to us, and also some of the old people, what's the process of doing a podcast?
All right. Well, I want to take the time to apologize for all the drama I told you.
Drama is very good on television. Very, very good. So, never mind. Just let's start with how that all got, well, we talked about how it got started, but I want to know the process of doing a podcast. So you get up in the morning, you get your guests, you research, give us an idea of what that's like.
All right, so to make a long story short, after I was recovering, it took a couple of years, I just decided to say, I don't want to work in retail anymore. I want to show people that labels do not dictate who I am, who I'm going to be. As people labeling me as mentally challenged, retarded, and everything. So I'm not for the longest time, I'm using a weakness as a crutch. And I was like, what? I'm going to show you that a weakness can be a strength. Now, to answer your question about how I started a podcast, I basically, don't ask me why it seemed like a good idea at the time. I did 72 phone interviews. So I interviewed people from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers to Dragon Ball Z, and these are all voiceover actors, but I was still having panic attacks at the time. It's like, this is supposed to be helping, but it's not working. And one thing it got to me was, they said to me, you have this great format. Why aren't you as big or bigger than you portray yourself to be? Why don't you have people helping you? Why don't you have sponsors? Well, would you like to help me? I said, no, if you can't do it yourself, and it's not meant to be. So, yeah, I know, doing jerk people. But, one guy said to me, do it over, and thanks to you, we're up to 259. And basically, I met a lot of nice people. I met a lot of jerks. And basically, I found something I liked. I found something I was good at. When I first started, and this is to answer your question, people said to me that, tell us about the video quality. The video quality was really bad because I had the camera, so I would record it from the phone. Whatever you see from the reflection is basically what the camera picked up. And season 2 would be the camera picking up on the computer screen. My brother told me, why don't you use Skype Recorder? Why don't you use Google Hangout? Now I use Skype Recorder, so now it's cut in half, so it looks like Fox News, CNN, all that type of thing. And it's pretty much for the 3 years, you show a process from the phone, from the computer screen, and now from the double screen. And even if you want to go back to 10 years when I was in high school, it was you show a process. Okay, I laid out the groundwork. And then now you're starting from the camera, from the phone, now to the camera, to the computer screen. Now I wear professional shirts. And some of the questions I would ask, from season 1, pretty much like this. But I would end the show on, where do you stand on gay rights? Where do you stand on the Second Amendment? Where do you stand on legalizing marijuana? Okay, I don't want season 2 to sound repetitive. Let's have it a little more in-depth. Okay, I'm going to pass the show over to you, wrapping up. Tell me what you want to ask me. You can promote anything you're talking about. And season 3, I wanted to have double interviews and group interviews. So it's following the same process of season 2, but now I'm more way back. Season 1 and 2, I was wearing tight shirts, like professional shirts. Now I'm more way back. Mm-hmm. And season 4, I might go back to wear professional shirts. But I'm showing you there's a transition of the 3 years. Because if I did Skype recorder for the 3 years, yes, I got it better, but you wouldn't see any growth. You wouldn't have seen me change. So basically, for people who want to do a podcast, find a subject you're passionate about, find the right software, find the right people who want to be supportive, stay away from the negativity. I found a lot of negativity, personalized and professionalized, because people said, I thought, here's what gets me. I now sound, basically people said to me, you're not copyrighted, you're not trademarked. For people out there, if you're doing an online-based show, from what I'm learned, from what I was taught, you do not need to be copyrighted because it's online-based. And that's what the senior lawyer advisor said to me. You're online-based, you do not have to be copyrighted. 2, you don't have to be trademarked because you're only pissing away $2,000. And how are you going to make the $2,000 back because you're not making money? But for people out there, and I have a perfect example right here, is basically write up a little thing and have your name on it, have a concept of your show, and say, do I have your permission to interview you? Now, originally, I was up to 300, and I was supposed to be up to 350 now. But out of the woodwork, people said to me, yeah, you know, my agent said, my publisher said, your video quality is degrading, you ask a lot of stupid questions, we don't like the video quality, you know, you're hurting my career, we don't want to be seen with people like you, take it down. So I took from 300, I said, you know what, the hell with it. I took everything down, went back to everyone, wrote up a permission form, saying, do I have your permission to use the interview? Some said yes, some said no. And so basically, I now do the permission forms to people. If they're not going to sign the permission forms, I want nothing to do with them because there's no point. Because I was taking people at their word, saying, hey, can we do the interview? Yeah, sure. And all of a sudden, they want to make idle threats to me, saying, I'm going to sue you, you're discriminating against me, take it down, you know, you're hurting my image, you're not who you say you are. So now you sign it, you got to stand by it, you know where we stand. So basically, for people out there, do what you love, find a subject that you want, do everything professionally, have them sign it so they can't back out of it on it, and just do what you love.
There you go.
And it's very, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, we're going to finish the show on this. Of all the stories that you've done, is there anyone that you find the most interesting?
I interviewed over 200. It keeps bothering me because I was originally over 300, but I'm doing it over. Now that I'm up to 259, I interviewed a lot of actors, actresses, models, CEOs, white people, black people, Spanish, Asian. I cover all my bases. You know, gays, transsexuals, whatever. I do not discriminate because if I did, you would be missing the point.
Right.
So I interview everyone, but my favorite interviews would have had to be from WWE Hall of Famer Lenny Pablo. He's the brother of the Macho Man Randy Savage. Kurgan Mayhem. He's a funny guy. He's from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. He did Goldar. And most recently, what I did yesterday was from Michael Landsberg. He's a former host of Off the Record, and he's a Canadian, one of the top professional Canadian media people out there.
Wow.
And we had a great time. He also coached me during the interview. And it's just those three that stand. There's a lot of them, but those three really stand out the most. And
when he coached you, what did he say to you? How did he coach you? And what did you learn a lot from it?
No, absolutely. I now came up with I will ask only 2 questions at a time instead of asking 3 at a time. Just be a little more direct. If someone didn't, I would say to you, who was your favorite person you had on your show? And he would say, yeah, I had a lot of people on my show. It's like, well, that's not what I asked you. You said you had a lot of hundreds of people. You have to pick at least one person out of hundreds of people who you interviewed. So he taught me to be, if you push back and make it more direct and make it more, entertaining.
Yeah.
And it's every interview is different. Some people it's hands down my fingers, but some people are really fun to be around, and there's some people that are like, okay, yes.
Yeah, that's true. Well, now, Keith Andrew, if people want to get in touch with you, if they want to watch your show, and if they want to speak to you in some way because they've had the same experience as you and they want to learn how to do a podcast, how do they get in touch with you?
I'm big on social media, and as I was told by one of my guests, I'm a big celebrity on social media. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's a compliment, so I'm going to take it. I'm on Instagram. I don't use it that much, but I'm on Instagram at KeithAndrewNetwork. All capitals, lowercases. I'm on Twitter, #KeithAndrew88. Go to YouTube, type in Keith Andrew Network or KeithAndrewNetwork.com. Go to my website, KeithAndrewNetwork.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Stage 32. I'm pretty much like Oprah. I'm everywhere.
Well, it's been a pleasure interviewing you, Keith Andrew. As I said before, you're totally an inspiration to younger people who really fall between the cracks, and finally they find themselves doing something that they love. And it sounds like you really love it. So, again, I want to say thank you for being on the Susan Brender Show.
Absolutely. The honor was all mine. Thank you very much.